Okay, how we doing, everybody? It's moving right along. So we just did the Viberg, the White Rancher. We got boots, and this one here is the JKOT in Bison. This leather, this upper and vamp. This is Bison leather from Law Tannery. This boot is a Pacific Northwest boot made by JK. The the bootmaker, his name is John, I don't know his last name, John Costas or something like that. He's immigrated initially from the Ukraine, but he's been living in America for quite some time, and he really made a name for himself. I believe he worked at Nick's Boots, which stemmed from White's Boots, which has been around since the 1800s, so long lineage of boot making there. Let's get right into the boot itself. So they have JK also has their own YouTube channel, which features how these boots are made exactly. They're all handmade with old school machinery by skilled workers. So this is called a unisole or unit sole. It's just one piece. Usually the heel stack is a separate piece that is attached completely separately. You'll have this bottom of the outsole, and then you have a leather stack, like on this boot, and then you have the final attachment to that rubber sole. So like this is a Vibram 430 mini lug outsole, but then you have a Quabog heel, so they're separate pieces technically. Okay, so I mean, a lot of you guys probably know this stuff. You just came to look at the boot. I know I try to be informative throughout my videos, but let's just pick out some different things. The kilties on this right here, this false tongue, also Bison. I like their design on theirs, like the little they're a little more toothy, and there's fewer of them. I think that makes for a better looking boot. And they don't extend out too far down the toe, which is a good move in my opinion. We have the laces, or not the laces, the stitching on this is black stitching, and I believe it's like they use some kind of I think it's like Kevlar or something. I know it's supposed to be like fire resistant stitches. They are double rowed. This is a stitch down construction. It's not hand sewn. I love that the vamp comes all the way out to the very edge. I think that's a really nice uniform look that not many P&W brands do. I mean, pardon me. Frank's kind of does it pretty often, and Viberg will bring it out all the way. White's doesn't really do it like that. They tend to cut it right in between both stitches. And with the hand well, I imagine it makes it more difficult not to. This toe. Now this is a completely stock boot. I got it for 600 and I think the total was 650. I believe the boot itself was 625. If you get the non-Bison, I think it's only like 525, or it's the Bison tacked on a good additional expense. So I think it was like an extra $100 with the Bison. You can see that both stitches come all the way through to the bottom of the sole, and because there's no midsole, right? There's no midsole in here, so they can go all the way through much easier. Yeah, this boot is much lighter than most boots. Rose Anvil has a video on this exact boot, except his has a rough out vamp combo. The big difference is this has a lineman shank. Okay, and you can see that the stitching actually goes all the way around. Most, see that stitch right there at the heel? Most of these style boots only have a, what is it, like a 270 degree. It usually, the stitching stops here. And then the rest, I mean, it's under, much further under the boot. I think it has to do with the unit sole, I think, plays a big part in this. Like, why this double row stitching extends so far out. I mean, it really sticks out very far. And I think that has something to do with the unit sole maybe only being one size or two sizes and not like, you know, because this boot is at an 8.5D. It was in stock. I didn't have to wait for it. I just bought it right off the website and it was shipped immediately, which was great. And I even put in a discount code, got like 20% off. So it actually was cheaper than what I said. I think it came out to like 630 shipped with the code. And I also live in Delaware, so I have no sales tax. Even if I'm buying stuff not in Delaware, I don't get charged additional tax for that. So it was an even like 630. I'll show you the packaging in a minute. So here's the difference. So here is the White's Rancher. And you can see how much wider, if I can get this to focus, you can see just how much wider that double row stitching is on the JK than the White's Rancher. On most of the White's Rancher, you can't even see the second row of stitches. It's just covered up. So, and you can see here's the kiltie on this and the kiltie on this. So you have less teeth on here, and it just, I think it looks better. Both have brass eyelets. I like how, I mean, you can see how much the heel even extends out. So it must be like a one, you know, only a couple sizes for these unit soles here. So we have pull loops on the back. You'll see this backstay here is stitched differently. You just have 3 stitches along this side. Sorry about the focusing. 3 stitches along this side. Whereas on the White's Rancher, you have this like these triangular stitches. You still have 3 going around, but you have stitches, triangular stitches in the middle, which I think look really cool. It's definitely like a very White's thing. I believe Nyx does it too. JK probably does it like that as well. And yeah, most P&W boots do their stitching down here in white, unless requested otherwise. JK, they do, like, they have a different kind of bison. They have, this is the standard bison. It's like the Redwood bison. It's like a reddish brown, but they also have a black bison, and they have a canyon bison, which is a more beige color. It looks really nice. I would have preferred the canyon, but this is what they had. And the canyon has the white stitching. Not just here for the sole, they have it up in the vamp and everything too. It looks like a much cleaner, like casual kind of boot. It's quite pretty. Same with the forefront. They also do the same thing with their canyon bison. And that was my other choice. I was possibly going to get the forefront, which is a similar design, having no midsole and the lineman shank only, except it's a wedge. Okay, it's not a lugged sole. It's a wedge sole. You have 2 screws here, and that's it. I've seen other ones where they had more screws. Like they had one like here or something. And then they're more, you know, like the Super Duties and stuff, they'll have screws all around the whole thing. The Super Duty is JK's big boy boot. That's like their version of like the Nyx Builder Pro. or like a White's smoke jumper. Here is the White's box, okay? It's a very stylized kind of box. And the difference with the White's box is that this came in a second box. There was actually a larger box that this was, wow, this is really fucking in there. There was a larger box that this was in, okay? And, you know, I think I showed this before. White's packaging is just awesome. It has, you know, all these like cartoonish looking graphics on there and stuff. It's very classy. Now, a lot of other brands like Frank's, Westco, and I don't know how Nick's does it, but Frank's, Westco, and now Drew's came with 2 boxes. Drew's had a box in a box, but yeah, JK's just came in 1 box, whereas Drew's also had a box in a box. And this is how it appeared. It was wrapped in like this. You had a JK sticker that came with mine. Their boots came with 2, I don't know what these are, neoprene or something. Some kind of rubbery type of insoles, and this is just like a precaution in case your boots were too big for you. This was to help take up any slack, which I thought was really cool that they, you know, were thoughtful enough to do that. I mean, if they were made of leather, it would be even better, but you know, something a little extra that they did. My boots fit me perfectly, so I don't really have to worry about that too much, luckily. But, you know, the Whites came very plain. But JK, they include all sorts of stuff. For example, they have this quality control approved inspection. It's even signed. Looks like it's signed by someone named Jimmy or Timmy, whoever works there. I thought that was really cool. And it also has even more paper material here. So here's the little handwritten note. Never mind, this is photocopied. Welcome to the JK family. It shows you could freeze frame that. It shows you how to do your laces, how to properly get yourself fitted in there. Look, this is even more lacing options. You got this to work with, which is pretty cool. Have even more information about the boots, you know, if they're too loose, too tight. I mean, look at all this info you get just in general. I mean, it's pretty thorough. Order support instructions to exchange, return, what qualifies for that, what can't be returned. So anything that's a second can't be returned. Anything that's been made to order customized. Unlike White's, I believe White's gives you 90 days to do a return exchange. JK says they only give you 30. You can't, they even put a sticker. I took it off. I think it's on telling you about the 30-day policy. Oddly enough, the sticker was actually put on the boot, like right here. Which, I mean, they really want you to know about their policy here. Boot warranty information. Our fault, we fix it, they said. Well, I contacted them about my laces. I'll tell you in a minute. Here's a form for return exchange. So, yeah, my only issue, so they provided these leather laces, right? I'd like to add about this kilty this is really cool that they add this slit in here for extra, to keep that kiltie in place. This kiltie, I like it. It's just a little wide. It's a little too wide for what I need. And I mean, I love the malleability of Bison. Like, it's feeling like it's going to be a really easy break-in. But the tongue, the actual gusseted tongue, it's a little too big. It's a little too broad. But yeah, it's not big enough. If it was even bigger, I could do a proper fold over. But it's not quite that big, so then I can only do like a small fold over. Whereas like on my whites, cutters, and MPs, it's a lot shorter, so it can just stay completely open. Or on my West Coast, for example. So that's kind of problematic. Wow, you can see the how bulbous this heel is. This counter, that is thick in there, man. That's hard. Much harder than the toe cap. The toe cap is I mean, this is the most unstructured. Well, the Bison also accentuates that, but completely unstructured toe in this, which I like because I wanted this to be as light as possible. Because this boot, I'm going to use this for work when I have to be quick on my feet and practically run house to house doing lawn care. This will help for those kind of days, especially when it's hot out. Even though this is an 8-ounce leather, this is the thickest upper I've ever experienced. Actually, this particular one on this particular side, this is beefy in here. This is thicker than my Knicks Packer, my old Knicks Packer from 2007 or 8. Yeah, and you can't... I'd like to get a good shot. There, you can see it. See the fuzziness of the inside of this boot? I mean, it is very... There you go. You can see the Bison. That is the Bison skin. And it's like... It's almost like fur. I mean, this rough out is straight up fur. It's very interesting. It's got a full sock liner. Or wait a minute. Let me double check that. Never mind. It's not a full sock liner. It's a half sock liner. It goes to about here. The fit on these, though, I'll tell you, I really like it. I think they did a great job with it. I mean, it fits my foot, my particular foot, great. There's the JK logo, made in Spokane, Washington. So the same exact city and state as Whites and Knicks. So yeah, I mean, they're part of the same family tree. This guy, his son also works for him. He's in most of the YouTube videos you'll see. Yeah, great pull loop. A lot of room to grab it. That's important. Some of them, they make them too tight. This one, you really get a purchase of it. So yeah, even though this is super thick leather on this, it's still kind of light. Bison's kind of light, or malleable at least. And because you have that pebbled, tumbled. This feels a little cheap, the tongue material. But yeah, the Bison feels really quality. Looks really good. It's very stylish actually for a work boot. Got a little something here, a little glue, I think. A little schmutz. This thing really smelled like glue. I mean, my whites cutters, they reek of Horween, Wax Flash, Chrome Excel, and it smells great. But this, I couldn't, maybe Bison doesn't smell that strong, that intense. On this, I'm getting more of just a adhesive glue kind of smell. It smells like it smelled like an old school shoe store. If you ever went into like an old shoe store when you were a kid to get like school shoes or something, that's what it smelled like. It's faded a little more now, but it stunk up my whole room yesterday. So Yeah, I guess that's about it. I mean, there's probably a lot more I could tell you. Like I said, my main issue is these laces. So this is an 8-inch boot, right? Well, these laces are just not long enough. When I lace it all the way to the top, I can barely use the last speed hook and get a full knot out of it. And using the top eyelet and make a knot, which is how I usually do it, forget about it. I can't even do it. I sent them an email, so we'll see what they say. Because on my Drews, which is also an 8-inch boot with the same kind of leather laces, I can get to the top eyelet and still wrap around the back into a perfect knot in front. So I know 8-inch kind of falls in between that lace length of 6-inch boots and 10-inch, but they ought to send me a 10-inch lace because this isn't going to work. I really can hardly even lace the things. So I'm sure by the time I release this video, I'll have an answer for you, whether they accommodated me or not, but I'll let you know either way, whether they're going to be cool about it or just tell me, it's on you. Because to spend this much money and not technically be able to tie your shoes, that's no good. I don't know if that was an error on their part or if they expect people to deal with that. I don't know. But yeah, I like the whole lineman shank. I was always curious about lineman shanks. I only learned about them not too long ago. And you can get, I potentially like to get a boot that has a midsole and a lineman shank. That'd be interesting. I don't know about the flex, but that's the thing. This boot is much lighter than your regular PNW boot, and it's got a lot more flexibility to it. So it'll be great for all the running around I'm going to have to do in the summer. So taking out that midsole has definitely made it a lot lighter. I think it makes it a pound lighter. And yeah, should be good. All right, I guess that's everything. So yeah, they fit great. They're stitched perfectly. I have no frayed stitching anywhere. No loose threads. It's pretty impressive. They kind of put whites to shame in that regard. I guess there's a little bit of a mark down here, but overall, it's put together very smoothly. I'm sure it's a much easier process than having to make the midsole, and leaving those things out should make it cheaper technically, and it didn't. The standard boot is still like $525. I guess that is cheaper, honestly, but so I can't tell you what the Super Duty costs offhand to do a proper comparison, but yeah, JKs, they definitely have a thing going for them with this whole lineman shank thing. It's a nice little niche thing to have in the market for PNW boots. So they definitely have their place, their market down. So get in where you fit in. They have a great reputation. They have, except for sizing, they had a big issue with sizing in the past. They tried to use slightly different sizing methods, and it ended up just confusing a lot of customers and screwing them over. I've heard they've had a lot of quality control problems in the past. I've had a number of people try to discourage me from even getting them. But there's also enough people that said they like them that I was willing to take the chance. And I was pleasantly surprised. It's one of the better put together boots that I have so far. And like I said, quality control, it was just put together well. I can't knock it for anything except for this bullshit lace thing. And maybe the full gusseted tongue is a little too big for what it needs. Maybe that's a one size fits all, and me having an 8.5 foot, it's a little smaller of a foot than what this would normally require, is what I'm thinking. So who knows? All right, gang. See you next time. I guess I don't know what I'll be doing next. It could be a little bit. I could do the Alan Edmund Dalton, a full video, but I may skip it. We may see some Aldens or some more Frank's whites. I'm not sure what's exactly in store. Not a stitch out of place. I don't know whether to oil these or not. I don't really feel like they need it, because they're just so soft already. And they're so new. I mean, I don't think it needs any kind of oil. Just going across the board, here's the JK thickness. Here's the White's Rancher. Okay. Here's that same JK next to my NYX Packer. And as you can see, this is a little closer. Now, the NYX and the White's Packer, or NYX Packer and the White's Rancher, both Seidel. Yeah, but the Bison is still much thicker. Show the relativity with service boots or of the like. You know, here's some Horween thickness from a cutter, olive wax flesh. This is a rolled top, but this is Veg Tan Westco. And then here's the thickness between a Viberg and a White's Cutter. The White's Cutter is significantly thicker, but it's still got some beef something to it. It doesn't feel flimsy at all, the Viberg 2030. But it's definitely the thinnest. Although this Veg Tan is pretty thin as well, but it's a strong, it's Veg Tan. This may actually be horsehide. I can't even tell, because I don't know horsehide like that. If anyone can look at this and tell if this is a cowhide or horsehide, please let me know in the comments. It's the giveaway. How do you know the horsehide from just Veg Tan? Please let me know if you have any details about that. Interesting scratch marks right there on the hide. Really nice boot. It's loud when you walk with it. It's a little, not squeaky like in the sole, it's just the leather itself. It's interesting. I'm surprised how much thicker the Packer is than the Rancher. I guess they just know these are more casual boots, or maybe at the time, because this is such an old NYX, I mean, maybe years ago they just made the leather thicker, because I believe this is like a true 8 ounce, and this seems to be on the lower end of the, I guess a 7. Okay, for a quick sizing reference, right? Westco is 9. White's Rancher is 8.5. The JK is 8.5. The NYX is 8.5. This White's Cutter is 8. Okay. 9, 8.5, 8.5, 8.5, 8. You can see how much bigger the White's 8.5 is. Compared to the Packer, the NYX 8.5. And these both have relatively high arch out of all these. This is the highest. This is like a 690. But the Westco being a 9 is actually shorter than the 8.5, and this has low arch and this is high arch. This 8 is about the same size as the Westco 9. So the Whites run the biggest out of everything. The JK, I'd say, is pretty fair in its sizing. It's somewhere in between with the nicks and the whites. I'd say they run smaller than whites though. Whites definitely runs the biggest out of all these P&W brands from what I could see, including Viberg, which this is an 8, but it's 8 UK, so it's more like a 9 US. So here's an 8 US, and here's an 8 UK, which is really a 9. So this is like a 9 and an 8, and you can see how much longer the West Coast or the whites is. So I love the Viberg 2030 last. It's very nice on the foot. Low arch though, of course. I think the 2020 would be my perfect would be the perfect shape because it has a tight waist, which should make up for low arch in Viberg. If Viberg had high arch, they'd be killer. All right, so that's the sizing differentiation.